You wouldn't believe how affordable it was to build my chicken house. When I first started, I thought constructing a good poultry house would cost me a fortune. But after some research, trial and error, and a bit of creativity, I managed to build a simple, cheap chicken house that is both solid and spacious for a fraction of the expected cost. If you're planning to start a poultry farm on a budget, stick with me. I'll take you through the step-by-step process of how I built a simple, cheap chicken house and reveal exactly how much I spent to make it happen. Before laying a single brick or planting a single post, careful planning was essential. I didn't just jump into construction blindly. First, I had to determine the size of the house, identify the materials I needed, find the most affordable sources, and figure out how to make the most of every available resource. Eucalyptus poles, chain link, expanded wire mesh, iron sheets, and bricks. These were my key materials, but the real trick was sourcing them affordably. I made sure to use locally available materials to save on transportation costs. I got stones and sand for free. Instead of buying bricks, I molded them myself. And as for cement, I had about 10 kgs left over from a previous project, so I used that instead of buying a full bag. With all the materials ready, it was time to prepare the site. Luckily, I didn't have to do much here since the space was already cleared, which saved me time and effort. That meant I could get straight to marking out where the chicken house would stand. I decided to go with a size of 8 meters by 4 meters, giving me 32 square meters of space. This wasn't just a random number. I wanted to make sure my chickens had enough room to move around comfortably while still making the most of what I had. For layers, I planned to keep 6 birds per square meter, meaning the house could hold around 200 layers. Broilers, on the other hand, don't need as much space, so I could keep 12 per square meter, allowing me to house up to 400. For some people, this might not seem like a lot, but for me, it was a big step forward. Just thinking about how far I'd come made me even more excited to keep going. With the plan in place and materials ready, it was time to start building. But here's the thing, having the right materials is one thing, but assembling them properly to create a strong and durable structure, that's a whole different challenge. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you. With all my materials ready, it was time to bring the structure to life. But before anything else, I had to make sure the foundation was strong enough to support the entire chicken house. That meant starting with the poles, the backbone of the structure. I dug holes deep enough to firmly anchor the eucalyptus poles because the last thing I wanted was a weak foundation that could give in to strong winds. After carefully measuring and cutting the poles to the right size, I placed them in position. But just planting them in the ground wasn't enough. I needed them to be rock solid. To secure them properly, I used a mix of sand, cement, and stones, which acted as a strong base to hold them steady. Once the poles were firmly set, I didn't rush to the next step. I gave the concrete 2 days to cure, ensuring everything was stable before moving forward. Now, a strong frame is key to a long-lasting chicken house, so I nailed horizontal poles across the vertical ones for extra reinforcement. This step ensured the structure wouldn't wobble or lean over time. But even with a sturdy frame, my chickens needed protection from predators like wild animals and even thieves. That's where the wire mesh and chain link came in. I wrapped the structure from the top of the brick wall up to the wall plate where the roof rests with expanded wire mesh. This created a strong protective barrier while allowing airflow. But I wasn't taking any chances. I reinforced it with an extra layer of chain link. This combination not only made it nearly impossible for predators to break through, but also provided excellent ventilation. With the protective layers secured, the chicken house was finally taking shape, and it was time to move on to the next critical step, installing the roof. But a house without a roof isn't much of a house at all, and that's exactly what I had to tackle next. A proper roof doesn't just protect the chickens from the sun and rain, it also plays a huge role in ventilation and temperature control. And that's where things started getting even more interesting. With the structure in place and the protective mesh secured, it was time to focus on the roof. A good roof isn't just about covering the house, it has to provide shade, withstand harsh weather, and allow for proper ventilation. To start, I installed rafters, the beams that support the roof, firmly across the top of the structure. On top of the rafters, I placed purlins, which are horizontal supports that help hold the iron sheets in place. This setup made sure the roof would be strong enough to handle wind, rain, and even the occasional curious bird landing on top. Next came the iron sheets. These were carefully secured, making sure there were no gaps that could let rainwater seep through. A well-sealed roof is crucial for keeping the chickens dry and comfortable, especially during heavy rains. With the roof sorted, I turned my attention to the lower walls. Instead of using costly materials, I decided to mold my own bricks, saving a huge amount of money in the process. I built the walls with bricks and mud up to 3 feet high, just enough to protect the chickens from strong winds while still allowing good airflow. Once the bricks were in place, I smeared them with mud to give a smooth finish and seal any small gaps. This simple trick not only made the structure stronger, but also nice looking. At this point, the chicken house was really starting to take shape. But there was one critical part left. What goes on the ground? A bad flooring choice can lead to poor hygiene, health issues, and even unnecessary expenses. So, to keep my chickens comfortable and my costs low, I had to get creative with the flooring. Now that the walls and roof were in place, it was time to focus on the floor. Many commercial poultry farms use concrete flooring, but for me, that wasn't an option. It was simply too expensive. So, I had to find a cheaper yet effective solution. Instead of using concrete, I opted for a compacted mud floor, the most budget-friendly option. To make it work, I ensured the ground was well compacted and level. But mud alone wasn't enough. I needed to prevent the chickens from coming into direct contact with the bare ground. To solve this, I planned to use a thick layer of wood shavings. A thick layer of dry wood shavings would act as bedding, keeping the floor dry, reducing bad odors, and making cleaning easier. Plus, it would provide warmth, especially at night when temperatures drop. This simple setup saved me money while still ensuring a healthy environment for my chickens. But there was another problem: rainwater. If rainwater seeped into the chicken house, it could turn the mud floor into a messy disaster. So I had to think ahead and create a simple but effective drainage system. To prevent water from entering, I installed a damp-proof course, DPC. Normally, DPC is used in construction to block moisture from rising up walls, but I repurposed it as a barrier to stop rainwater from splashing in. Since my budget was tight, I didn't extend the iron sheets far beyond the walls, so the DPC acted as a temporary fix until I could make further upgrades. I'd rather have something that serves its purpose for now than build something extremely strong and be left with no money to buy chicks or feed them. When you're on a tight budget, creativity becomes your greatest asset. As the farm grows, you'll generate income to improve the infrastructure and invest in better equipment over time. Since I connected this new house to the old chicken house, my next step is to remove the wall separating them, creating a single, wider space. Once combined, the entire house will accommodate at least 300 layer chickens or 600 broilers. To some, this might seem small, but to me, it's a huge achievement. When I first started in early 2024, I could only rear 50 chickens on free range because all I had was a small grass-thatched shelter. It provided a place for my chickens to sleep at night, but it wasn't suitable for full-time housing. There was no proper ventilation, and the space was too cramped. Now, looking at this fully built chicken house, I can't help but reflect on how far I've come. From that tiny shelter to a 3 meter by 4 meter upgrade, and now to this sturdy, spacious 8 meter by 4 meter structure, it's proof that progress comes with time, patience, and smart decision making. Now let's talk about the cost. Many people assume that building a chicken house is expensive, but here's exactly how much I spent to construct this new structure. I purchased eucalyptus poles for $65.48. The iron sheets, which provide roofing and protection from harsh weather, cost me $122.17. For additional security, I used a chain link, which set me back $23.19, and an expanded wire mesh, which cost $15.28. To hold everything together, I needed nails, which amounted to $16.37. I also used a damp-proof course, commonly known as DPC, to prevent rainwater from entering the chicken coop, costing me $12.28. Lastly, labor and other minor costs came to around $30. In total, I spent $285 to build a structure capable of housing 200 layer chickens or 400 broilers. That's a fraction of what most commercial setups would cost. proving that with the right approach, you don't need a huge budget to build a functional and reliable chicken house. This entire project proves that with creativity, hard work, and smart sourcing, you don't need thousands of dollars to start poultry farming. By using locally available materials, making my own bricks, and repurposing leftover supplies, I saved a huge amount of money while still creating a solid and functional chicken house. And that's the beauty of farming. It's not about how much money you have, but how well you use what's available to you. As my farm continues to grow, I'll keep making improvements, but for now, this setup works perfectly. If you're planning to build your own chicken house, don't be discouraged by high costs. Look around, find affordable alternatives, and start small if you have to. The most important thing is to take action and keep improving. That's my journey of how I built a cheap yet effective chicken house. I hope this inspires you to start or upgrade your own poultry farm without spending a fortune. But here's the thing, a poultry house alone won't guarantee success. If you don't have a solid plan, you could end up struggling to make profits, or worse, losing money before you even get started. So, what's the secret to turning a simple poultry farm into a thriving business? It all starts with a well-thought-out poultry business plan. And guess what? That's exactly what I'm going to show you in the next video. Click on the video on your screen right now to learn how to create a simple but effective poultry business plan. One that ensures your farm is profitable from day one. Don't miss out. And before you go, make sure to hit the like button if you found this video helpful. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos, and drop a comment below, whether it's a question, an idea, or just to share your experience. Also, share this video with others who might need this information. Let's grow together. Click on it now and I'll see you in the next video.